So let's talk about scalar functions. Again, functions are something that if you don't understand them, don't use them. You can degrade your speed of whatever you're using the functions on. Okay? That being said, they are a tool for the toolbox because you can do some really cool things with them. They've gotten me out of a lot of little problems here and there, and it's a good place to hide logic sometimes. So let's talk about them. This is a very basic scalar function, okay? In this function, we're creating a function, and the function name is going to be called return area. We're going to pass it in two values, length and width, and we're going to return something of type integer. And then all we're going to do is we come right into the function and we return length times width. Sounds very simple, right? It is. And that's what functions do well. They do simple very well. So what I want to do is I want to take that exact same concept here and I want to go through this with you. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy and paste this, and I'll make it available for you too, so that I'm not the only one getting the free ride from copy and paste. Okay, so I have created my function, and so everything, when you're creating any type of item in a database, you use create, and then we're creating a function as opposed to a table or a stored procedure. We're naming that function return area, and we're passing in two values and returning one value. Okay? Alright, so this is a very simple hello world kind of UDF. I'm going to run the create command, so now it exists. So how do you call a scalar UDF? Well, let me tell you. You select from it. So, well, you don't select from it, you select it. So here's what we have. We're going to type in select, and then we're going to put in the name of our UDF. Now, what's interesting about a UDF is you have to precede it with the actual schema, okay? So in this case, schema is DBO, and we're calling the UDF we just created called return area. And we're going to pass it in two numbers. We're going to pass it in a 6 and a 5. And when we run this, we get back a 30. Okay? Now, that 30 is this return value right here. So if I wanted to, let me alter my function. I can also put in a +5 right here, and then I'm going to run my alter. Now, alter, when dealing with objects inside the database, there is three functions. There is create, alter, and drop. Create creates the object, alter changes the object, and drop drops the object or removes it. Okay? So we have 6 times 5, and that's 30, right? But we are altering this to add 5 to whatever the result is. So now if we do 6 times 5, we get 35. So we've created our first function, and we've altered our first function, and we're going to go full trip here, and we're going to drop it. And when you do a drop on anything, you have to drop it, you have to type in drop, then the type of object, and then the name of the object. So in this case, we're dropping a function, and the name of the function is return area. So now notice, when I call this, it does not exist. It says, nope, it does not exist. So, and then if I've dropped it and it does not exist and I run an alter, we get an error here, okay? So now we have to recreate it. So we've created our method here, and we noticed that in the select statement, I passed in two values and I got one value. This value is a scalar value. Yay! Okay, so how is this used? How would you use this scalar value? Well, if I wanted to do some sort of math on a bunch of records and then keep that math, or not even math, any type of, concatenation even, okay? So what if we wanted to always concatenate the name and address, okay? So we're going to go ahead, we're gonna create a new function. We're gonna use this layout right here to do it. So we're gonna create a new function that is concat name address. I like to name things very long because in 5 years when I come back, I'm not gonna understand what the heck I did it for back in the day. So I like to have very descriptive names. So we're gonna pass in name here, and that's a varchar max, and then we're going to pass in address varchar max, and then we're going to return varchar max. Okay, let's fix that. Max, bam. All right, and then what we're going to do, so this is the return type right here, okay, and then this is the return value, and what we're going to do is we're going to return name plus address, and we're going to put a space in it. So now I've created my function. My function exists. We're going to call it, and we're going to pass it in Bob, and then we're going to pass it in 123 Glory Street. Bam. We're going to send that, and it did. It concatenated them. Bob, 123 Glory Street. Too easy. Now, so we do that, and we know how to pass in full strings into our method. But how does that help us? I want something that I can use in a view or use on more than one record, right? Well, let me show you. So let's say we have this name and this address in in person. So let's select star from person just to see what this looks like for a minute here. All right, so we have Bob and then we have our address, yes? Cool. So what we want to do is we're going to do the same select, except for we're going to actually select somebody's name and address. So we're going to call our method here, and then instead of passing in a string value, we're going to pass in the name of the field. So the field name is name, okay, and we're going to pass in address. And so it's going to get the, and then address is a reserved word, so we have to surround it with brackets here. So now we're passing in the value from name and the value from address from TV person, and it concatenates them for us. Perfect. Perfect, 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 perfect. That's exactly what we wanted, right? I think so. Now, what happened here, and you can't see it when it comes to 20 rows, but what happened here was it, for every one of the rows, it got this value, passed it in, and concatenated these values. The problem being that it doesn't do it one time, it actually did it 20 times. Does that make any sense? So it actually went and for every row ran this function. And that, for a database, in the long run, ends up being counterproductive, because a database can do mass concatenation much faster than this. But I want you to be aware of one main thing during this discussion. For every row, it actually went and called this method and did this concatenation. So, that being said, it is a very inefficient query, because in a lot of cases, you might be dumping out 10 million of these, 100 million of these, right? So this could happen if you get into a big database. But they are still very useful. What if I wanted to create something that was more like, so my boss wanted to know all of the video names, okay, that a specific teacher had. You understand? So if I had that, then what I could do here is create a function that would give me all the video names for a specific teacher. That's very interesting, isn't it? Cool. And for that one, what we could use is we could either concatenate all of those names together, or we could use a table function. So that's what we're going to do next, is we're going to go through and we're going to teach you how to create a very simple table function and use it. Alright, so we've gone through and we taught you how to create a scalar function and use a scalar function and how to pass in values from an actual select statement into a scalar function. So you should be somewhat versed in what a scalar function is and how to use it. So stay tuned and we'll get back to table.